Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and another STAMPtember exclusive collaboration video. I already had the footage for this card. I'm scrambling to get things done. The collaboration, this one is with Brutus Monroe. As of doing this voiceover, the stamp and die set's already sold out. The stamp set, again, as of doing this intro, is still available. Like I said, I already had the footage. It really pains me to just toss all that work. So I'm, because it's edited, everything's ready to go. So I'm just filming this intro, throwing it up. Let's hope. Let's hope. But like always, I'll have a link to the set if it's still available. I'll have a link to the Brutus Monroe product line for those that aren't aware. The Simon Says STAMPtember collaborations with all of these brands are limited edition, one and done. When they sell out, they're not restocked. But the brands, as the whole point of STAMPtember is, focusing on all these wonderful brands, have many, many, many good products. So I'll have links like I always do. I will link to everything else I used to make this card in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills and keeps the channel going. And yeah, let's get into making this card. So this collaboration set is the Brutus Monroe Holiday Mugs set. And like past STAMPtember collaboration sets with Brutus Monroe, there's like 3 seasons covered. So there's fall, Halloween, and then like holiday or Christmas. But because my life is chaos, this time I only did one. Again, I wanted to do the Halloween one and the fall one, but only got so much time in a day, man. But I know other makers have used the other mugs and there's plenty of inspiration out there. So I went with the holiday one and I had stamped it onto some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. And then the whipped cream and the marshmallows I'm stamping onto Simon's smooth white 120 pound cardstock, and then using my grid placement transparency just to protect the cardstock so I could move that marshmallow around and stamp it multiple times without having to clean the stamp off. Just protects the cardstock and saves my sanity. Wonderful. So, using my Olo markers. I've been talking about this a lot. I'm really liking my Olos on Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. It's just, if you have alcohol markers, doesn't matter what brand, and you've never colored on Neenah Desert Storm, I highly recommend trying out. I just, one, I love the look of it, and two, it is, at least to me, it's easier. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I've had a few people like commenting and reaching out to me about it, and I was like, try it, man. It's fun. It really is. And it just gives a little bit of a different look. And yeah. So I will also link at the end of this video to my playlist with all the videos I've done using the Olo markers. As a reminder, mine are not connected because you connect them, it's all explained on the Olo website. I don't have mine connected. I'm using them as little half markers, as little stublets, just out of pure stubbornness, basically. And I'm okay with that. It works for me. I will eventually connect them. I'm still holding out hope that they will release a fine tip version so then I can have this brush tip, which I love, and then a fine tip of the same color on the other end. That's my main reason. That's what I'm holding out for. So I did all of my coloring, and I love how this just kind of came to life as I added all of the color. And I had purposely stamped that whipped cream and the marshmallows on the white cardstock because it's going to make them pop a little bit more. But one of the things I do like about coloring on on a craft cardstock like this is when you add white highlights, they pop. It stands out a little bit more than it does on just coloring on white cardstock. That said, I actually didn't use a white gel pen today either. Shocker. I know. I'm just losing my mind. But I went with kind of traditional colors again, which for me, not usually the norm. I tend to kind of avoid, especially with Christmas colors. I don't know, but it works. And with this one, it really did work. So the coloring for the whipped cream and the marshmallows, super simple. Even though all this coloring was sped up in editing, it was super simple because Yeah, tiny little bit of shading, little orange for the little marshmallow snowman noses, and we're good to go. So for my highlights, I just used a white color pencil, just my little Prismacolor pencil. Use that to fill in the areas that, the little highlights and the white areas on, the candy cane and the straw, etc. And then also just use that to add my highlights instead of using my white gel pen. So went around and did that, and then I fussy cut them. I've mentioned this. I don't have the coordinating wafer dies for any of the STAMPtember sets this year. So I fussy cut my images. Didn't take long. We were good to go. For my background, I pulled out a piece of Simon's green leaf cardstock, and I'm using it with the Poinsettia Sprays 3D embossing folder. So I lightly misted the cardstock with water just to soften the paper fibers a bit so I get a good embossed impression, and then ran that through my EMPRESS machine with the folder and one cutting plate. And then I've shown this many times recently and, not so recently. The concept, like kind of like the blackout technique, but you can do it with just any colors. So I wanted to emphasize this. So this is technically the back of the embossing, so everything's debossed and not raised up, and I'm applying ink. And I'm using Simon's Artichoke Positively Saturated ink. And I've done this in other videos with these inks. The thing to remember with specifically these type of ink pads that have the foam, light hand. Like, do not press, because one, these inks are very saturated, and two, because the ink pad is foam and like mushy, it wouldn't take much. So I just use a light hand and just swipe it across the cardstock. So that will cover all of the like flat areas, and then all of the debossed impression is lighter, like so. And it just gives a different look, and I love it. So after I did that, I let the ink dry, and then I added a healthy dose of splatter. I used my Picket Fence paper splatter liquid watercolor in the liquid white Snowflake. Added that splatter with my little fan brush, and that just gives it a bit of shimmer. And then I pulled out my Spellbinders Splatter White Opaque and added just a little bit of that to my palette, watered it down a bit. And because I watered this down like a little bit more, this won't be like stark white. It goes on stark white, but it's also going to absorb a lot of that green ink. So it's not going to be super white. If you want it to be more white, add less water. But I just wanted it for the texture. So after I added all that splatter, I set it aside, and then I grabbed a scrap of red cardstock and I stamped the Happy Holidays stamp from that set. After using my anti-static powder tool, stamped the sentiment with clear embossing ink, coating that with detail white embossing powder, and then tapping off the excess. I'm going to melt this with my heat tool. Once this is melted, I'm going to use my microfiber cloth to buff away that excess anti-static powder. And then I'm going to use one of my sentiment label wafer dies to die cut this. So I'll take my washi tape and tape this in place so it doesn't shift when I run it through my die cut machine. So I got that die cut. And then I took my paper trimmer and I'm going to trim down this embossed background. I trimmed down to like 3 3/4 by 5. And then I took another piece of the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and I trimmed that down to about 4 by 5 1/4, just slightly bigger. And I used my Tim Holtz paper distressor, and thread cutter tool. I've shown this in a ton. You can also use scissors. You can technically use your fingernail, but I don't recommend it. It's not good for your fingernails, even if you're not trying to keep them pretty, which during STAMPtember, I'm not painting my nails, which everyone can very clearly see because I just don't have time. But I'm still taking care of them, okay? So anyway, roughed up the edges of the cardstock. And then I'm going to adhere that sentiment strip to the embossed background. So I adhered that with just craft tacky glue and then trimmed off the parts hanging off the edges with my scissors and then pulled out some baker's twine. I'm going to wrap that around this card front, and then, as always, reverse tweezers for the win. You start your knot, you use the reverse tweezers to pinch it closed, and then I can make my little bow. And once I'm happy with it, pull it tight, remove the tweezers, pull it tight again. We're good. Perfect. Trim off the excess, and then I'm going to adhere this to the piece of cardstock that I'd roughed all the edges up with. So I'm going to adhere that with some craft tacky glue. And then to adhere my mug and everything, I'm first going to assemble my little candy cane and the straw with the little whipped cream there. So got those adhered with the craft tacky glue. I'm going to adhere that to my little mug. And this was why I purposely did the whipped cream on the white cardstock, because it just really stands out next to everything else. And then I put Big Mama foam tape on the back of this and like super sped this up because I cut, you know, narrow little strips to get behind the little straw and the candy cane and whatnot. So got all of that into place, and then I can pop this onto the card front. And then my little snowman marshmallows, I'm going to pop into place with just little foam squares. I'm going to tuck one into the top there, just stuck right in that little whipped cream. And then the final one, wasn't sure where to stick him, and then finally stuck him next to the other one because that's where he looked best, in my opinion. So stuck all those into place. My card base is a top folding A2 white note card. And on the inside, I'm going to stamp that mug with just a light ink. So I'm using Simon's Latte ink. And then I'm going to stamp the other sentiment from that stamp set. I'm just going to line that up, and that I'm going to stamp with the Rainbow Splash Scarlet ink. So get that sentiment lined up. I'm going to ink it up, stamp it, and then I adhered the card front to the card base. And then I'm going to add glossy accents to the candy cane, the whipped cream, and the tops of the marshmallows, because glossy accents is going to dry clear. And I needed something to adhere some glitter. And this time I'm going to use Distress Rock Candy glitter. I did a video recently, one of the recent ones, where I used Simon's Unicorn glitter, which is more iridescent and sparkly. Rock candy looks more like sugar or snow, depending on what you're going for. And I used this glitter duster. I have more than one with different types of glitter in them. And yeah, people were commenting they'd never seen these before. Stampers Anonymous sells them. I'll have a link to it. But you just have glitter in it, and it just blows out just light amounts, not a ton. So I use a coffee filter to kind of contain the excess little bit of glitter. And by dusting that over, it catches on all of that glossy accents. And I'll show at the end with my flashlight so you can see the glitter. And once I was done with the glitter, I then put glossy accents on just the nose because I wanted that no glitter, just shiny, you know. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, I'm adding some little white clay hearts from my stash, just because they pop nicely against that green background. So stuck a few of those in place. I'll adhere them with little dabs of craft tacky glue. And then, yeah, I'll show with my flashlight. It is so hard to show rock candy glitter on camera because it's subtle, but it's pretty. It's perfect for holiday cards because, yeah, it looks like sugar or snow. It's still sparkly. It's just doesn't have that like iridescent sparkle. And then plus the shimmer of that picket fence paper splatter liquid watercolor on the background too. Love. Can't go wrong with shimmer and sparkle and fabulous goodness and a shiny red nose, you know? So that was the card. Like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the things in the description box below the video. So if you just expand that, everything will be listed and linked for your convenience. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to hang out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton and I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.